welcome. Welcome to our August 9th, 2022 Town Council meeting. Madam Clerk, please.
This is to
Start the meeting.
inform the general public that this meeting is being held in compliance with Section 5 of the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975. The annual notice was emailed to the Star Ledger and filed in the Township Clerk's office on November 24th, 2021, and published in the West Orange Chronicle on December 2nd, 2021. Councilwoman Castellino?
Present.
Councilman Rutherford?
Here.
Councilwoman Williams?
Present.
Council President McCartney.
Present. Thank you, Madam Clerk. So the first thing on our conference agenda is this beautiful proclamation to Jimmy Buffs celebrating 90 years. If there's anyone here from the Downtown Alliance, I know our executive director here is here. I know people are on Zoom. Please come up. And Joe? You're on the Downtown Alliance. Okay. I'm going to read the proclamation. Can I take this one? Jimmy Buffs is celebrating its 90th anniversary, originally of 14th Avenue and 19th Street in Newark, New Jersey, is where the hot dog with the Italian twist was first concocted by the founder James Bluff Rasiopi in 1932. And whereas Grandpa got his nickname from his bluffing style at the card table, where he affectionately was called Jimmy Bluff. Translation from Italian to English came up with the nickname Buff. In the 20s and 30s, everyone had a nickname, and hence James Rasiopi became known as Jimmy Buff. And whereas the sandwich was first served as a treat by the Rasiopis for close friends and relatives, it went over so big with them, it became the center of their menu and ultimately a customer favorite. The fresh onions, peppers, and potatoes combined with the hot dog is what allows the specialty its claim to originality. And whereas today, over 90 years later, the Italian hot dog and its nearest relative, the Italian sausage, are the staple fare at Jimmy Buff's and take turns outselling each other. Today, they cook their Italian hot dogs and sausages in cholesterol-free soybean oil, just like Grandpa Buff did in 1932. The tradition lives on today in West Orange and Kenilworth. Both locations are run by James Rasiopi's two great-grandsons. Thomas Rasiopi runs the West Orange location, and Michael Loitkiff runs the Kenilworth location. Whereas Jimmy Buff's has survived many obstacles in the 90 years, but the pandemic was the toughest. But it did force them into a local delivery business. We also ship our sandwiches nationwide through a company called Goldbelly, which ships iconic foods all over the country. Also, 2022 marks the third year they are doing on-site backyard parties. So now, therefore, on behalf of Mayor Parisi and my town council colleagues and community, we do hereby congratulate Jimmy Buffs on their 90th anniversary and their 62nd year in our community, and extend our warmest, best wishes for long and continued success.
I want to get in the picture too, but I want to.
Can we take it as ours? Can we take these off of the picture? Sure.
Now you want to take your mask off?
Sure.
Okay, hold it around. Thank you.
Did you want to say something?
First off, I want to thank the town of West Orange for giving us this proclamation. It's been our honor to be here for the last 62 years. I want to thank my grandfather for having the great idea to come to West Orange from Newark, my father for keeping it going, and the rest of our family for all their support. And can't wait for the next 60 years.
So I have one for you guys to take home, one for the store, one for the Kennel World store, and one for you to have at your house. Thank you guys so much. We love you. 1,200 hot dogs a day.
We're gonna get done about 9:30 tonight. We're gonna stop.
And it's Tuesday. Beautiful.
Hey, Meg.
Good night, all. Thank you so much. Thank you. Are you here from the West Orange Women's Club? West Orange Women's Club? No? Okay. Do we have green ribbon? So next on our conference agenda is the Green Ribbon Week, presented by Miss Olivia Raymond, Student Ambassador from Grassroots Community Foundation on Mental Health. Oh, there's our presentation.
Olivia, can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, okay. The way this is going to work, the audience can see your presentation. Can you see your presentation?
Yes, I can.
Okay, you just tell me when you want to advance to the next slide, and I'll take care of it.
Okay.
Before we begin this presentation, I'd just like to introduce Miss Olivia Raymond. She is a dynamic individual. I have worked with her before. She is part of an organization that in 2019 raised funds for Haiti, and they bought, their funding benefit was successful, and they bought such things as a goat and a cow, among other things. Of course, they were purchased locally in Haiti. And I mention this for two reasons: that she is a dynamic individual, and I want her to be taken seriously in this presentation. And the other thing is that she is the daughter of our downtown West Orange Chairman Ron Raymond. Okay, Olivia, take it away and tell me when to advance the slides.
Thank you so much for that introduction. And yes, I am Olivia Raymond. I'm the student ambassador of Green Ribbon Week. I am also part of the original group that came up with this idea back in 2017. And I was the ambassador when I was at Roosevelt Middle School, and now I will be a junior this year at West Orange High School. I'm also on the executive board of the Black Student Union and have been a part of the Grassroots Community Foundation since 5th grade, where I was able to do the social action project, which was previously mentioned. But I would just like to thank you all for inviting me here today to share with you about Green Ribbon Week and our organization. You can go to the next slide. So the Grassroots Community Foundation is a leadership and training organization with, you can go to the next slide. With an emphasis on public health and social justice, which is led and developed by Dr. Janice Johnson Diaz. And our mission is to create a world where all girls grow up to be healthy women. And as a part of this, we have a flagship program known as Super Camp, which is a summer intensive leadership program that teaches girls of African descent and about African and African American history, public health, sociology, and political science. And we also do activities such as African drumming, poetry, and dance, which it aims to help youth develop body confidence and oration skills. And our focus areas are physical, sexual, and mental health, where we aim to increase movement and intake of fruits and vegetables, responsible sexual decision-making, self-efficacy and confidence among youth and adults, as well as our understanding of the relationship between health and finance. You can go to the next slide. So the organization is revolves around 4 different principles, which lays the groundwork of our work that we do, which is truth, order, balance, and reciprocity. When we say truth, we are talking about understanding the basic truths about health and wellness, learning skills necessary to make wellness a priority, and incorporating those skills in our everyday lives and practicing them, as well as sharing our knowledge and information with friends, family, and our community. And our equation is truth plus order plus balance plus reciprocity equals harmony, internal harmony equals joy, and external harmony equals justice. You can go to the next slide. So Green Ribbon Week is an initiative that aims to promote positive mental health among youth, and our goals are to educate youth about ways to maintain good mental health, encourage adults to engage in practices that facilitate dialogue with youth, as well as eliminating the stigma by making conversations about mental health just as common as our conversations revolving around physical health. And in doing this, we are able to move beyond illness to wellness. You can go to the next slide. The motivation behind Green River Week starts back in 2017 when Grassroots Community Foundation and RWJ Barnabas Health collaborated to develop a healthcare fellowship for us to experience, with the goal of developing a pipeline of future women healthcare leaders, where we were able to get a multitude of public health training and professional development, as well as learning about policy implementation and experiencing different aspects of the healthcare system. And we were able to participate in a fellowship hackathon where we worked with different fellows and interns to strategize solutions for different global health crises. And to encompass this whole experience, we were asked to create a capstone project where we had to address a gap that we thought was important and unaddressed in the healthcare system. And the group that I was a part of decided to focus on mental health among youth. You can go to the next slide. So since then, Green Ribbon Week has been presented and adopted by West Orange High School in collaboration with Ms. Catherine Connors and the Student Council, and has won top 10 projects and recognized for 100% participation of the West Orange High School Student Council, and has won the Youth and Students for Peace Award in the Synergy competition, and is continued to be supported by the Student Council, Black Student Union, and Student Assistance Counselors. And in 2021, we are grateful for it to be adopted by the West Orange Town Council. You can go to the next slide. Our other partners include Central High School in Newark, Roosevelt Middle School, Redwood Elementary School, Essex County College, MasterCard, TD Bank, Halion, which is formerly GlaxoSmithKline Healthcare, Mondelez, Hope Therapeutics, the Council for Black Health, RWJ Barnabas Health, Newark Beth Israel Hospital, and municipalities such as the City of Plainfield and West Orange. You can go to the next slide. And this support is so important, and we're so grateful because it helps us on our journey of addressing the current state of youth mental health. And by these statistics, you can see that it's so important because 1 in 5 teens experience depression before they reach adulthood, and over 500,000 kids each year report to the hospital because of self-harm injury. And suicide is the second leading cause of death for youth among the ages 10 to 24. And these greatly affect our educational experiences and outcomes, shown by 1 in 3 students with mental health needs continue on to post-secondary education, and kids who have recorded to have high depression scores also end up having high suspension rates. And you can go to the next slide. And a key aspect of Green Ribbon Week is moving to a conversation about wellness, because the majority of conversations and policies regarding mental health are focused on the treatment of illnesses and disorders, and those are very important, but we are seeking to broaden the conversation and our perspective when we considered what is necessary to maintain our well-being. And taking steps to maintain our wellness can help prevent or minimize the development of illness. And these are some of the positive mental health practices that we suggest that people take part in during Green Ribbon Week, such as deep breathing, which is one of the best ways to lower stress in the body, unstructured play, which helps problem-solving skills and emotional intelligence, talking out your feelings with someone who's there to support you and listen to maintain a good mental state, as well as taking time to go outside, maybe to a park, or exercise. You can sleep to restore your body and mind, and it's important to connect with others and develop and maintain the strong relationships you have with people who are there to support and love you. You can go to the next slide. So Green Ribbon Week is held on the third week of September from September 19th to September 23rd. And on Monday, we suggest that you take the pledge to practice one or more positive mental health activities each day. And start each day this week with at least 60 seconds of deep breathing. And on Tuesday, we suggest that you spend some time playing a game with friends or family outside for at least 20 minutes. And we suggest that you wear green every day, but especially on Wednesday the 21st, because that is our day of solidarity. And we suggest that adults take time out of their day to have a conversation with a young person without interruption and to spend time listening. And on Thursday, we suggest that you take time to connect with others, maybe by writing a letter and mailing it to someone that you care for. And on Friday, we suggest that you take time to rest by setting your alarm to go to bed at a time that allows you to get at least 7 hours of uninterrupted sleep. You can go to the next slide. The next one. You can go to the next one. Yeah. So overall support is very easy. All you have to do is go to grassrootscommunityfoundation.org to take our pledge. Wear green during the week of September 19th to the 23rd. Practice one healthy action daily to promote your mental well-being, and you can get creative. These are just suggestions. Rally members of your organization, community, or school to share preventative mental health information. And for youth, we suggest that you take time to breathe and find a safe space to just talk out your feelings. And for adults, we suggest that you take time to listen to the young people in your life before offering advice. You can go to the next slide. And those who are interested in becoming a partner, all they have to do is communicate their interest to the Grassroots Community Foundation to receive a partner packet for your organization or school. They develop and collaborate to make an organizational plan. They rally members of the organization to support the initiative and sign our partner agreement and share their partnership and commitment with the public via social media or press release or a brochure. You can go to the next slide. But overall, we are very thankful for the West Orange Town Council for your continued support and adoption of Green Ribbon Week. Because of your involvement, it allows us to bring our work further into the community and promote positive mental health on an even broader scale. So thank you very much.
Olivia, thank you so much for that presentation, the best practices that can help everyone of all ages. I appreciate that. And we have to listen to the part, listen, that was the listen before you offered advice. I think that is one of the most difficult things to do because we want to help and yet we have to learn to listen. So thank you very much for the presentation. Councilwoman?
So I just want to say, Olivia, you did a wonderful job presenting the information on Green Ribbon Week. Thank you very much for that. I am delighted to kick off September, which is Suicide Prevention and Mental Health and Wellness Month, with this presentation. We look forward to continuing to collaborate. And this year, we moved our presentation up just a little bit so that we can perhaps engage our township residents and administration a little more proactively in Green Ribbon Week this year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Joe, can you tell me if there's someone on Zoom from the West Orange Women's Club?
I wouldn't know what name to be looking for.
Can you raise your hand? Can someone raise their hand if you're here from the West
If anyone from the
Orange?
West Orange Woman Club is on this meeting as an attendee, please raise your hand. Once again, if there's any member of the West Orange Women's Club in the meeting as an attendee, please raise your hand and I will allow you to talk. Seeing none, Council President.
All right, thank you. So the reason they are on the conference agenda is I had reached out to them from the organization West Orange Women's Club. They are doing a backpack drive to support the Emmanuel Cancer Foundation, collecting backpacks. There will be flyers that will be distributed around town and supplies to be in the backpack. And I'll just read some of the things so you can either donate the backpack or the material inside. Composition notebooks, number 2 pencils, safety scissors, washable markers, pocket folders, plastic rulers, pencil sharpeners, glue sticks, pencil cases, erasers, lunchbox or a lunch bag, and a box of tissues. And on the flyer, if you go to womensclub@gmail.com, there will be drop-off locations if you care to donate to the Emmanuel Cancer Foundation. We'll provide more information. Thank you. Madam Clerk? Wow, 7 o'clock. Yes, ma'am.
I think I'm in the wrong place.
Oh.
I called for mayor's meeting and they directed me to them. And the purpose I'm here is that I have some issues I wanted to discuss with Mayor Price, and I heard that she's leaving the office next month.
Oh.
So it seems that everybody's on Zoom, and they didn't tell me I have to be on Zoom.
No,
Ma'am, this is
but
West Orange.
this
Are you
is the
looking
West
for
Orange Town Council meeting?
Oh, so I'm in the wrong place. Who told me to come in? I asked mayor's meeting.
The mayor of West Orange?
Yes.
This,
Oh,
this is the town council meeting where you would have an opportunity to get up and speak for 5 minutes if you do have any issues, and the council will address that.
Actually, I want to talk to Mayor Paris face to face. And, you see, he will understand me more than you can. because
okay.
I've been in this city for 22 years, and he understands my problem.
What are his office
It's
hours?
unfortunate
I don't know that.
He doesn't have regular office hours.
today when I called the office.
Did you speak with his secretary?
Yes, I spoke to a lady. She said it's Sunday nights by 6:30, and she gave me his email.
Ma'am, I would suggest mayor@westorange.org to send him an email, and then you could coordinate your schedules to meet. Yeah.
I was surprised that I don't see other people that have problems to be present. All right, thank you so much.
Sorry about that.
Sorry about that.
And if you would like to share with the council at westorange.org, you can also send us.
I'm good. I just
Okay.
wanna,
Talk
see
to
Mayor
him.
face to face and make sure that he will take care of my problem before he leaves the office.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Mayor@westorange.org.
Thank you.
And thank you for speaking up.
Ready?
Okay. Madam Clerk.
This is to inform the general public that this meeting is being held in compliance with Section 5 of the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975. The annual notice was emailed to the Star Ledger and filed in the Township Clerk's office on November 24th, 2021, and published in the West Orange Chronicle on December 2nd, 2021. Councilwoman Castellino,
Present.
Councilman Rutherford,
Here.
Councilwoman Williams,
Present.
Council President McCartney.
Present.
Oh, will everyone
do that?
please rise
There
for
we
the
go.
Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The council is now in their public meeting.
Okay, Any member of the public wishing to speak during public comment, please raise your hand. If you are unfamiliar with the raise the hand function, it's at the bottom of your screen, and if you don't see it, you just need to run your mouse over it. You will be in the queue, and I will call on you. Everyone will get an opportunity to speak and address the council. You will have 5 minutes, and Madam Clerk will advise you when your time is up. And council members will address your concerns at the end of public comment for the Zoom audience and everyone here in the room. Okay, first person up is...
Joe, excuse me. I would like people that are here to have the opportunity to speak first, that they came out, if that's possible. If anyone here that's present would like to speak, thank you.
Council President, in all due respect,
Yes,
we
sir.
have set it up this way, and we have people in the queue, but we can do whatever you want.
Thank you. Yeah. People are here.
Okay. Okay, everyone, I can see your
Just hang
hands
on.
raised,
Good. All
and
right.
we will
We'll certainly get to that next.
get to...
Thank you, Council President. Good evening, Claire Silvestri, 20 Grandview Avenue. I wanted to take this opportunity to commend the council members who defeated the $10.4 million capital bond ordinance, as well as the $4.5 million bond ordinance for improvements at O'Connor Park at the last council meeting. I especially thank council members Rutherford and Williams, whose comments prior to the first bond ordinance vote indicated the measure did not have sufficient support to pass and may have persuaded other colleagues to vote no and send it back to the administration to make prudent cuts. I noticed that the revised bond ordinances are not on the agenda tonight, and my hope is that that's because council members are taking the time to scrutinize and prioritize the initial list of projects and make suggestions to the administration on reducing the size and scope of the capital budget based on input they've received from constituents. And I hope that when the revised ordinances are presented for first reading, the public will have adequate notice and information to weigh in on the legislation. I just wanted to touch on one other issue that came out of the July 19th meeting. That meeting lasted an excruciating 6.5 hours. The 2022 budget hearing portion of the meeting did not begin until close to 11 p.m., and the council was deciding on $15 million of capital budget spending after 1 a.m. At the start of the meeting, council chambers were pretty full, but by the time the budget discussions began, the crowd had dwindled to a handful of residents. Of course, this is unacceptable, but it's nothing new. Last year, during Councilwoman Matute Brown's tenure as council president, 9 meetings went 4.5 hours or longer. The September 14th meeting, when the council was asked not only to approve the 2021 budget, but also a $13 million bond ordinance to buy out PRISM for properties in the Phase 2 redevelopment zone. That meeting went just 2 minutes shy of 6 hours. And Councilwoman Castellino's last meeting as council president in December of 2020 lasted nearly 7.5 hours. There is certainly a problem with overloaded agendas being presented by the administration to the council, particularly, it seems, when there is controversial legislation to be considered. But Council President, it's your responsibility, your obligation to the public and to your colleagues to review agendas ahead of time. And when it is clear the number of items to be discussed will push the meeting into 5-hour territory, you should advise the administration to prioritize and table legislation that can wait a few weeks. I strongly urge you to use that power in the remaining months of your tenure. And I just want to add that I thank the administration for my suggestion of providing 2 microphones tonight, and I hope everyone in the council chambers and watching on video can hear us all. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Anthony? Yeah, sure.
Sorry, Anthony. No problem. Joe Fagan, Public Information Officer, 66 Main Street. I have a few brief slides I'd like to update, talk about to the West Orange public today. tonight. At the June 28th meeting, it was announced that there would be lane closures on the entrance ramp to 280, and that it would last about 4 weeks. Of course, we're well beyond that, and the latest update I have is that it's going to be about another 3 weeks. Apparently, they ran into some sort of problem for delays. Once reopened, the I-280 eastbound ramp to Pleasant Valley Way will be closed for about 4 weeks. So I suggest to residents using that area to just be aware of the changes and continue to do what you've been doing. I want to point out that Downtown Thursdays is going to be this Thursday, August 11th from 5 to 8. Family fun, again, it's the last in our series. We have the Howard Hall Trio. I believe they're a jazz band, outdoor dining and drinks. On July 27th, West Orange resident Bill Squires, he came to Firehouse number 5 to thank firefighters Leon Cedarwall and Gary Browse for taking him to the emergency room in March 26 when he was stricken with COVID, and he credits them with saving his life, and he also insists that all our first responders are heroes, and it's hard to disagree with. An important announcement came from the Department of Community Affairs in reference to Hurricane Ida, which hit September 1st, 21. The state has received a $228 million block grant, and West Orange residents could potentially qualify for relief. At this point, all they need to do is, all anyone needs to do is fill out a survey, and I have the website up there, and you can email me. I'll have my email again at the end of this presentation, and I'll be glad to send this to you. Of course, like anything else, there is a deadline, but this one is pretty generous. It goes to the end of the year. So again, this is just a survey to see if you would be eligible. I'd like to talk briefly about something someone is probably very familiar with, but might not have the understanding, and that's right here in West Orange Town Hall. I'm talking about the West Orange Honor Roll. This was installed here in 1946, and there's some 3,500 residents on there that all served in World War II. I want to know their history and stories, and I've been working on creating a database, and there's been an intern that's been in Town Hall this summer that's also been helping me with that. And I'm devoting some more time to it. It's been a long desire of mine to get this done. I've made several discoveries. Of course, there's brothers, uncles, cousins, and even 4 sets of fathers and sons, my father and grandfather being one of them, and I had mentioned that before. But there are also brothers and sisters here that are on the honor roll. And there's also 3 African Americans that I found so far. One is pictured here. The other one, Joseph Chesterfield Jones, is currently not on the honor roll, and I believe a mistake has been made that I found. And the reason being is this is his registration card for World War II, and his address is clearly listed as Mount Pleasant Avenue. But when he was drafted, there was a change of jurisdiction, and he was in college in North Carolina, and I believe his record was not returned to West Orange. So I'm going to make sure that he gets onto the honor roll, and there may be others as I dive deeper into this. A West Orange High School classmate of his, Warren Porter, I have him up here for a reason, because this is why I want to know the stories. He lived at 34 Llewellyn Avenue, and just 2 doors down from him, for a period of about 5 years, lived a Civil War veteran. Not just any Civil War veteran. His name was Michael Gaffney, and he was part of Lincoln's honor guard for the Gettysburg Address on November 19th, 1863, and witnessed that. In fact, when Town Hall opened in 1937, the flag flew at half-staff for one of the first times for Michael Gaffney. So it's interesting to think the conversation that these 2 men may have had concerning that. So I want to make a public appeal. If you have if any resident has a relative or thinks they have a relative on the honor roll, to please reach out to me, and I'd be glad to have their information if I don't have it already. Finally, I just want to make a reminder that with social media, please turn to westorange.org for all the latest updates and accurate information. And don't rely solely on social media for information that may not be correct. Again, this is my address, my email address, jfagan@westorange.org. You can email or call me anytime. Finally, Council President, I want to end on a bit of a lighter note. This is 1954, and Mayor Quinn is being sworn in, and he's being sworn in right where everyone is sitting up on the dais. And I've counted at least 5 cocktails in the picture. I guess it was okay to have cocktails in celebration, but that's not the reason for the picture. Let me pull out on that picture, and you can see sitting above Councilwoman Williams is a light fixture that's missing, and it's been that way for almost 70 years. So it's the light fixture that was when I see Councilwoman Matute Brown, who just came in looking up above, and it's there. But that one has been missing for quite some time. Thank you for indulging me, Council President, and that concludes my report for this evening.
Actually, it looks very industrial, which is very modern trend these days.
Anthony?
Welcome.
Thank you. It's interesting because these two don't match the others. Well, this one and that one, they don't match
Try to
at
replace
all.
them. Antique lighting. Welcome, Anthony.
Hi, good evening. Anthony Puglisi, representing County Executive Joe DiVincenzo. Just 2 quick announcements. One coming up on September 11th, we'll have our 21st annual remembrance ceremony for those who lost their lives on September 11th, 2001. The program starts at 8 a.m. as always, and the public is invited this year. And 2, on probably one of the hottest days this year, yesterday morning, we had a short photo op on Lakeside Avenue, just to announce that the replacement of the culvert on Lakeside Avenue was taking place. The project is going to take about 3 months to complete. And you'll notice that the detour signs have already been put up. It's not a big detour, just around the block. And as with all the county executive's projects, he always urges the contractors to be on time and on budget, so hopefully there'll be very little disruption to your downtown.
Anthony,
That's all
thank
I
you
have.
very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Sir? All right.
At this time, Council
Yes.
President,
Thank
we'll
you.
invite our Zoom attendees to
Okay.
come in. First up, and forgive me if I'm not saying your name correctly, Mike Militides, please follow the directions on the screen and begin talking. Unmute yourself.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Mike Miltiades. I live in 10 Run Drive and in West Orange for 44 years. And this is the first time I participate in the town's council meeting. I'm not familiar with the protocol for speaking to the council, but I request that I provide an email, which I sent to all the council members for the record to what I will talk to you about this evening. The problem I'm trying to solve is to be able to receive the same level of library services which I was receiving a week ago. This is no longer feasible because the library director decided to eliminate the mandatory mask wearing policy for the 2 hours when the library opens on weekdays and 1 hour on Saturday. I belong to a high risk group for COVID infection, and being indoors with unmasked individuals increases the likelihood of me catching the virus. I need your help to solve my problem, and I would like to support 2 possible solutions. One, have the liaison to the library council member to talk with the library director or the board of trustees and point out the town's health department policy of July 18th for mandatory mask wearing indoors in all municipal buildings. This is based on CDC guidelines for our high-risk classified count. 2, if the library team does not comply with this request, please issue an ordinance to state all township departments, including the library, must comply with the town's health department policy on all health matters, including mask wearing in all municipal buildings. To support my request, I have copied below some additional documentation that I cannot go over in detail. One is basically what's written on the statute for public libraries. Many people have the misconception that the town's health policies do not apply, which is not so. And I also copy emails I sent to all council members yesterday with the, today's email and ask you, Kel, to resolve my issue. Thanks for your cooperation. Bye-bye.
Mike, I'm sorry, I neglected to ask you to state your name and address for the record.
Yeah, my name is Mike Miltiadis. My address is 10 Run Drive.
Thank you.
And this is, it's also providing the email I sent to the council.
Thank you.
Yes.
Next up, we
Thank
have
you.
Joe Krakakovia. Joe, please follow your instructions on screen and begin speaking.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Joe Krakowiak, Grandview Avenue. I was pleased to see the council vote down 2 bond ordinances seeking to borrow $15 million for capital spending at the last meeting. Last year, as I pointed out, the council voted to authorize borrowing more than $62 million in a single year. Issued and authorized debt at the end of last year was $141.8 million, up an astounding 78% in the last 3 years alone. Consequently, in the same period, debt service has risen nearly 24%, or $1.63 million to nearly $9 million in the approved 2022 municipal budget. Also, as a likely consequence of such practices, our tax base has declined in 8 of the last 10 years, increasing the dollar amount of property taxes required from the shrinking pie. I was pleased, not because I enjoy saying no without a reason, but because I hope that this marks the start of the council taking a very different path from its previous practice and process for debt going forward. And I hope this process will involve consideration and balancing of outstanding debt, how to repay that debt, and include economic conditions such as inflation and trends in interest rates anytime you're asked to authorize borrowing. I hope this process begins with your request to the business administrator to provide a revised presentation on the proposed capital expenditures, professional enough with large enough type size so that residents can read and hopefully process the information to consider and provide input on the proposed expenditure. That revised presentation should be posted to the town website at least a few days before the meeting on the homepage. The presentation should also provide information sufficient to understand what each proposed expenditure is, its cost, and the rationale for doing it. As part of the process, residents should be allowed to provide their input and their questions, and every one of those questions should be answered. At the last 2 council meetings, many of the questions about capital expenditures went unanswered, sometimes with the response that the information would be provided at the time of the presentation. That was certainly not the case. I'm still waiting to hear about the proposed spending at the golf club and the pool. If this process can't be completed at a meeting, then it should be extended. Separately, I read an article this week saying that a state judge has refused the township's request to throw out a lawsuit filed by the police union claiming discrimination from the mayor's vaccination policy that caused many town employees to lose substantial pay and even their jobs. Please provide the citation for this lawsuit and any information about it that you believe will inform residents without jeopardizing the town's legal position. The agenda for tonight includes a proposed settlement of a lawsuit with Mr. Kevin Malanga over the sale of the library property. The resolution refers to Exhibit A as the settlement itself. That document, however, was not on the town agenda page, and I emailed the clerk why late this afternoon. I ask that the council defer voting on this resolution until the public has a chance to review the terms of the settlement and to be given an explanation of why it was not available tonight. The labor agreements with the town's unions are on the agenda tonight. My questions are, how much are these contracts going to cost, including any increased benefit costs? What's the average municipal contract increase statewide this year? Why were the contracts for only 1 year when the previous practice was for multiple years and provided more certainty to budgeting? The police patrolman's MOA cites quote, ongoing grievance proceedings before the arbitrator Gwynn and/or the unfair practice charges, which among other things demand negotiations regarding on-call compensation and terms. Please provide residents with more information about these issues. Resolution 207-22 asks for $37,300 to conduct a Phase 2 assessment of potential environmental contamination on the site of twin towing at 1 Ashland Avenue. The 13-page proposal mentions that at least some of this property is leased from the town. What did the town do during this lease to protect against contamination of its property? I note that this is part of the property council has voted unanimously to buy in the Phase 2 downtown redevelopment area. As I've pointed out in previous meetings, the state redevelopment law does not require municipalities to buy property as part of the redevelopment process. And as I've asked before, so exactly why did the council vote to borrow $20 million to buy all this property? And what is the status of this property purchase? How much has been spent and how much more is pending? I note that at the last council meeting, the council voted to purchase 3 parcels in the area for 40% more, or $200,000 over the assessed value. If that's the trend, you're going to run out of money long before you complete this process. So I urge the council to reverse its decision and stop buying these properties, which only increases costs for the township and subjects taxpayers to substantial, likely, multi-million-dollar real estate risk. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Kevin Malanga. Welcome to the meeting. Please state your name and address for the record.
Kevin Malanga, 57 Ridge Road. Good evening, Council President, members of the council. We in West Orange have a crisis in the protection of trees. The forester who was hired less than a year ago is no longer employed by West Orange, and his effectiveness can be judged by the number of summonses that he issued, and that is 0. The replacement forester has been hired, but only for the 2 days per week of his contract and only 4 hours each day. Moreover, the biggest problem is that many violations take place on Saturday and Sunday when the town forester is not working. The one time that I called the police to report illegal tree cutting, the police officer who responded knew nothing about the tree protection ordinance. I recommended to the prior forester that he conduct trainings of the police department, but that was not done. I urge that this training be done as quickly as possible. 4 hours per day, 2 days per week is not enough. We are serious about protecting trees. We must do better. I would like to hear from the council what steps they can take to ensure that the administration provides a higher level of enforcement of the tree protection ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, it's listed here as the Library of New Jersey. Please follow the instructions on your screen and state your name and address for the record.
Good afternoon. This is Corey Dishman, CEO and co-founder of the Library of New Jersey. I reside at Llewellyn Avenue in West Orange. I just was calling in briefly just to request an update on the cannabis applications, where the task force is at. Have they met? Have they reviewed any of those applications since our last meeting? That was all.
Thank you, sir. We'll respond after everyone speaks. Thank you.
Any other member of the public in the Zoom audience wishing to address the town council, please raise your hand. Once again, any member of the Zoom audience wishing to address the town council, please raise your hand, and otherwise public comment will be closed. Council President, I'm seeing none.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Joe. I wanted to thank Mr. Miltiadis for your email. We did receive that yesterday. According to the health director and the public health nurse that I spoke to just today, that when the community level reaches high, the mask mandate takes effect here in the township. I think the library is autonomous from the town, is independent of the town policy. They satisfy their own recommendations and follow CDC recommendations, the recommendations that they follow. I appreciate the fact that you were offering solutions to us, and I think that's an administrative call. I still feel that the library is autonomous from the township, and as I said, they're following their own recommendations. And the town is at, I did find out today that if there are any changes, if any, that they will be reported on Thursdays each week. So we'll find out how long we have to keep these on. If any changes, they will be published on Thursday. As far as the Library of New Jersey, welcome back. I understand that the task force is planning to meet, and my colleague will be able to address that concern. And Claire and Joe Krakowiak, actually I'm
Thank you.
pending. Sorry? I was going to suggest to my colleagues tonight on pending matters that we have a workshop to review and revisit and prioritize the itemized list that we did receive for capital improvement budget to see how we move forward since nothing was approved. So I do apologize for the length of that meeting. I did not expect, there were a lot of things that happened. We meet only once a month in July, once a month in August. I didn't expect the lengthy discussion on the suspension of the cannabis. That took quite a while. Of course, the budget, but it's very difficult to regulate the number of speakers that are attending and even to regulate my council colleagues' comments and response. So I do apologize to everyone that the length of that meeting. Again, we meet once a month in July and August, and we may have to revisit that next year. And Mr. Malanga, yeah, Forrester, 4 hours, 2 days a week. There is a lot of work happening in this town. Again, John, if you have any comments or questions, and how do we address those issues?
Yeah, we are in the process of negotiating for additional hours. You know, I don't want to go into the details because we're in the process of a negotiation. But we agree that it's an area that we need to look at and try to get more coverage. So.
Try to get more coverage. Yeah, absolutely. And that when we get to the resolutions, I am going to ask you for the status on the resolutions with the union contracts, and congratulations on the extended year. We'll talk about that. Okay. Backwards. Councilwoman Williams.
Thank you, Council President. Thank you to all of those who came out this evening to speak directly to Township Council. Also, thank you for the Zoom attendees who came and voiced your concerns as well. Mr. Malanga, I am in agreement that we do need to, and as you heard the administration indicate, do a little better with our forester. So thankfully, hopefully, we'll see something different. Just be patient. I think everything else will be addressed by my council colleagues or the administration as we go through the agenda this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Rutherford?
Thank
Any
you, Council
comments?
President. I'll go in the order in which we received them. Thank you, Ms. Silvestri, for your complimentary comments tonight. Mr. Fagan, I want to thank you for that World War II in West Orange history. You know, there are some really rich stories in West Orange, and they really do need to be told. So I'm grateful for your, you know, your work in that space. That's what makes this place the special place that it is. So, and I sincerely thank you. I think those stories go unnoticed and people don't know. I actually looked at the board on my way in tonight and was really wondering what that was. It's a coincidence that you had the presentation on that. But also thanks for telling Mr. Squires' story. I just want to say, you know, 32 days on a ventilator, to get off the ventilator after 32 days is a miracle in and of itself. So Mr. Squires certainly does, you know, have a lot to be grateful for. He's certainly a testament to strong will. But it also shows that this thing is not over. We do have some work to do to get out of COVID. So thanks for highlighting that story too. Mr. Puglisi, good to see you as always. Thank you for your information, especially with regard to the Lakeside Avenue culvert replacement. Grateful that our county exec is participating in some of the upgrades down there in that part of town. And so certainly glad to see that yesterday and happy to hear your report tonight. Mr. Minialtes, and I may have messed your name up, I apologize. I spoke with him on the phone. I think one of the things we should consider, Mr. Gross, and you and I have spoken about this as well, is having clearer communication around, I don't know what we're doing with the feedback. If I'm doing something, am I too close? Am I not? I mean, you guys hear that? Yeah?
No.
It's on the edge.
Okay. So I think we need clearer communication around what the rules are. We need stronger enforcement of those rules. I understand that the library is autonomous, but they do have West Orange in their name, and they receive the overwhelming majority of their funding from the township. And I think it sends a little bit of a confused message when one space does one thing and something else does something else. I understand how we got here. This is not to assess blame, but I do think going forward, we need a more consistent approach and clearer communication around what our issues are or what our stance is with regard to the masks. And so, Mr. Minialtes, I think you'll see some progress there, but again, there are some structural challenges to fixing that. Mr. Krakowiak, I understand your issue with voting on the Malanga settlement. Is our Mr. Trinka available to make any public comment about that?
I'm sorry, I did not.
On the Malanga settlement?
I don't think he's on tonight, so.
No? So I've spoken with Mr. Trink about it. I'm satisfied with Mr. Trink's explanation to me. So, you know, I understand that you may not have that same information. I am not sure what of that I can share. I am not an attorney. I don't have that kind of background. So I am not going to share that conversation, but I will tell you that I had a very frank conversation with Mr. Trink about it, and I was satisfied with his presentation. With regard to purchasing property at prices over assessed value, I'm not a realtor, but I bet the realtor on the council could tell us that that's not something that's uncommon. Assessed value and market value are two totally different things. And so, you know, I would be concerned if we were paying over market value. I am not as concerned paying a price over assessed value. Mr. Malanga, I do share your concern as well. We've had multiple conversations about the Forester, we being myself and folks in the administration. Part of what makes West Orange the beautiful place that it is the canopy. It allows us to maintain a small town feel. It keeps our neighborhoods quiet, and I mean, they serve a tremendous purpose, not just with climate change, but in how we feel walking around our neighborhoods. So we certainly do need to protect them. I don't know what we can do. I don't know why it's so difficult to get that spot filled with someone who is going to be diligent and dogged in their defense of the trees. But I'm happy to have further conversations with the administration in that regard. And Mr. Dishman, I am going to defer answering your question to those that are more informed with regard to where we stand with cannabis. I think that answers everything, or at least all that I could take notes for. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Mr. Councilman.
Thank you, Council President. And to the public, my apologies. I literally just landed and am back from a trip, so I just ran in as fast as I could. So I apologize for any public comment that I did miss, but I will be sure to listen to the recording at a later date to try and answer the questions that were posed prior to my arrival. And certainly appreciate my council colleagues' consideration in my tardiness as well. Mr. Matildas, I think that it is pertinent for us to show a united front. I also spoke to our director, Fonzio, And he advised that we are required, or the township has made the decision to require masks when there is a high level, because that's the recommendation of the CDC. I would ask and will commit to reaching out to the Board of Trustees for the library to have discussions independent. It is true that the library is autonomous, and it is also true that the funding does come from our taxpayers, and that should be something that we're able to comment on and hopefully find some sort of happy medium, a resolution. So certainly thank you for your detailed email. And coming on to public comment this evening. Mr. Krakowiak, I also do not agree that we are overpaying. I've said this before, this is not the first time that you've asked this question. We have made a concerted effort to make sure that we're able to reimagine and take control of the destiny of downtown redevelopment, and that does take some improvements, and that does take some investments. And that is the direction that this township, the administration, and this council has agreed to go in what is the best interest of the township. You also asked, what did the township do to maintain the property? And the property that you referred to is with respect to the twin towing. Is it twin towings? It is twin towing. That's owned by the township, leased by twin towing. I'd ask you the same as a council member, a former council member of 10 years, what did you do to ensure that the township was protecting those resources as far as the lease was concerned? Mr. Malanga, I do agree with you. I will say that, and I'm sorry that your experience with respect to the police officer that responded to your call was not better versed. That is something that we could have a conversation with the chief about. I'm not sure what their directive is as far as enforcement is concerned. I am pleased to know that the administration is taking this seriously. When there are any offenders in the municipality, something very horrible like that happened in my neighborhood, where a new resident hasn't moved into the home yet, but it's recently purchased, took down 12 trees. And I stopped my vehicle and approached the contractor, who basically said we didn't need a permit. I did introduce myself as an elected official in town, and obviously having been very familiar with the ordinance, told them that that was in fact absolutely not true. And it's my position and my insistence, and it's something that I have spoken to the administration about and the chief about, that we pursue fines to the highest extent with this, with the tree company that was on premises at that time, because unfortunately I think that they take advantage of residents, especially new residents in town, who don't know better, who don't know the ordinances, and are just simply not familiar. Tree companies know well that every municipality has an ordinance that require permits. In this case, unfortunately, this company was not truthful to the new homeowner, and it's just devastating to see that property at this time. But we are pursuing fines to that tree company, because, as you know, our ordinance does require the tree companies to be registered in town before they can do any business in town. So you're asking what steps can be taken. It's up to us to continue to pressure the administration to make sure that we have adequate coverage, because it is true, the part-time just does not work. And before this current forester, because we had Mr. Thank you. Linson previously, and we listened, this council listened to the public, and we ensured, as the public requested, that his contract not be renewed. We hired someone else. Apparently, that individual understands that, or has come to understand, just the overwhelming demand that this job for the Forester and West Orange brings. So I don't know if a full-time forester or division or department is the answer. That is totally something that we can discuss with the administration, but I agree with you, we need to have someone in that is not just a part-time consultant. Mr. Fishman, thank you for your question, and as a follow-up for my council colleagues, I will say that the task force has received all of the applications about, well, the last time we met. So they've had it for 2 weeks. I did send out a doodle poll. We are scheduled for a meeting. We do have a quorum for tomorrow. It is not an open meeting because we do not meet and discuss those applications in public. It has not been the practice of the task force to do that. So the hope is that once we get through the applications, during a time where the council, as council president said, we meet one time a year. I'm sorry, in August, one time a year. The council meets one time a month in August. We do have a need to call a special meeting for the rent leveling board. There is a date that was suggested by my council colleague, Councilwoman Williams, for August 23rd, and that's something that we'll discuss to see if we have a consensus for that date, because I'd also like to bring those recommendations to the council at that time. So that is where we are at this time. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilwoman Castellino, I know you're out there.
Yeah, I'm here, I'm listening, and hello, everybody. My apologies for not being at the meeting tonight, but I guess it's appropriate for me to start off with Mr. Nattedes. Thank you for your comments, and I apologize for not emailing you back. I wanted to have an opportunity to speak with Mr. Kuby to see what his situation was there with his staff. And they are autonomous. They did make a decision, and I'm home, sir, because I don't believe in the mandate. I believe it's the CDC, it's a recommendation. So to make everyone feel comfortable, I'm home and on Zoom at the meeting because I did not want to come to council chambers to sit there with my mask on for 6 hours. And I do understand your situation. I empathize with you. And after listening to what you had to state and talk to Mr. Kuby, I'm also on a trustee of the Friends of the Library. And his big issue, he has, and his staff has gone above and beyond the past 2 years during the pandemic. When everybody else was home, they were out there serving the public in COVID. And they came up with many creative ways to serve our community. And they should be commended for that. And so maybe we just need to have a talk. Maybe they, maybe we could work something out with carving out an hour. Enforcement is an issue. It's extremely with staffing, low staff, and to enforce. The library is busier now. But, maybe, an hour could be carved out of the week. But again, I'm sitting here home tonight because I know these situations. I feel for you, sir. And, again, communication and dialogue, but that library board and the staff and Mr. Kuby, I mean, what they've done for our community, and again, I'm going to say and I repeat myself, for the past 2 years is above and beyond for what they did. And they were out there when COVID was really, really tough out there. I'm going to leave it at that. So, but we'll be reaching out to you tomorrow. Moving forward to Joe Fagan, thank you. And going back to COVID, Mr. Squires, God bless you, coming off a ventilator. And unfortunately, I know from my mom not coming off a ventilator. So God bless him and for making it. Joe, I also want to thank you Last week, downtown Thursday, we had you once again got us a historic marker right down by Schneider's parking lot there. And we were excited, and the community was excited to be a part of that unveiling, and that all goes into our visitor destination with the downtown and making our historic walking tours come together. Let's see, Mr. and Mrs. Krakowiak, you know, I voted for the bond, for the $10 million bond. And as you know, from being a council member, Mr. Krakowiak and Mrs. Krakowiak, from sitting in the audience for years, you know, we've had that list since last month, and we had the projects on there. I know I did my due diligence, talking to every single department head and questioning each project. Minish Park was on there. Pickleball courts are on there. Police and fire vehicles. So there's a lot of things, you know, that list isn't made lightly by the administration. It's months in the making. And again, I you know, one or two projects I may not approve if it came before us with the current climate. But you know, that was done for myself, especially with a lot of due diligence. And so I'm not going to apologize for it being the lone vote last week, because at the end of the day, that's how we expense our projects, and we won't have those projects if we don't come together and get a bond passed. And years prior, it was a little bit easier. Interest rates were lower. As we all know, the Fed just went up again. So, you know, I'm not here making this statement, you know, going against my colleagues' vote. I'm just expressing why I move forward with the vote, because when times are tough, government still has to run, and we all, you know, we have to make those decisions. They're tough, they're not easy, but they still need to be made. Let's see. Mr. Puglisi, thank you, and the county executive and the commissioners. It's great to see Pat Siebold and freeholder Elaine Luciano out yesterday for the project on Lakeside Avenue, and for the communications and working with Mr. Lepore and our Downtown Alliance and getting the communication out about the detour. So I know Ms. Brill was sending that out to our business owners, so we appreciate that. And let's see, I think everything else has been addressed. I don't want to prolong anything else. Oh yeah, Mr. Malanga, I made one note with your comments, and you know, yes, we send our police for training, but you know, if I'm going to spend any money on training, it's going to be for them to prevent active shooting drills. And that's all I have for this evening. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilwoman Castellino. And Anthony, I'm sorry I wanted to thank you also for the announcement on 9/11 for the beautiful memorial that the county provides every year at the Eagle Rock Reservation. Thank you for that announcement. Thank you. Okay, Madam Clerk.
Okay, we're going to review the consent agenda. Approval of minutes of previous meeting, July 19th, 2022, public meeting.
Consent.
Consent.
Report of township officers, none. Reading of petitions and communications and bids. Planning Board proposed amendment to Land Use Regulations, Chapter 25, implementing supplement agreement with Fair Share Housing Center, Ordinance 2685-22.
Consent. So this was a letter presented to the Planning Board for the Planning Board review, and the purpose is to update the land use regulations, furthers the goals of the master plan to provide affordable and inclusionary development, contributes to the region's fair share in affordable housing. And that was unanimously passed by the Planning Board at the last Planning Board meeting.
Okay. Bills, are there any questions on the bills?
Consent. Okay, so for resolutions, we have been talking about this joint meeting, the 198-22. We have been talking about that for a number of council meetings for this bond to come up, and we have also discussed with FEMA coming into play as well.
Are we pulling any resolutions?
Well, I don't think so. I just have a comment. I have no intention of pulling Resolution 20322. That's the resolution approving the general release covenant not to sue. This was the litigation between Kevin Malanga and the township. This was a covenant not to sue and the dismissal of litigation by and between Malanga and the township for the West Orange Senior Housing Urban Renewal, because what that does, we will be able to continue the proposed project with the development of 64 low and moderate senior apartments at the current library location. So I have no intention of pulling that. I wanted to move forward with that project. And I was going to ask Mr. Gross if you would talk about the resolution with Matrix. This is about Phase 2, and can you give us an update on Phase 2 and what the status is?
Yeah, this is the next step in the acquisition process for this property. In order to protect taxpayers, we always do a Phase 1, and whatever what issues are raised in that, then you move forward with a Phase 2. This particular area is an area that's been not surprised that there are areas of concern, and by doing the Phase 2, we'll be able to identify what those areas of concerns indicate and what the potential costs would be in order to solve that before we decide to purchase the property. So this is a step that basically, as our process of acquisition of the properties in the downtown move forward, we will be doing this with just about every property that we are looking to acquire.
And there is an agreement at that with Prism and hazardous, if any materials are found.
I'm sorry?
There is an agreement, there was a settlement agreement with Prism on hazardous, if anything hazardous is found during this remediation process.
Yeah, that would be on the Prism property, but these are properties in addition to the Prism properties. And so therefore, as we look forward to acquiring them, we need to do this ourselves, so that we don't put the taxpayer in a bad situation in the future. We make sure that we protect our interests.
Just for clarity,
Yes, sir.
Prism is not responsible for the cleanup at those sites.
No, that's right.
this
That's
site.
I just want to make sure that we're clear.
We've already
Yeah.
acquired, we've already gone through this process with them
Yep.
and on the sites that we acquired from them. This is for a secondary site.
No, I know, I just wanted to be clear for the public, we spoke about that earlier.
And the other resolutions are from 2008.
Council President, I did have a question on
Yes,
that same.
Councilman.
The same resolution, if you can, just because when you're reading the resolution itself, the whereas clause does talk about the property itself, the potential purchase of approximately 0.6124 acres currently owned by Twin Towing Property. And the address is 1 Lakeside Avenue, Block 115, Lot 1601, and Block 1302, Lot 1. I just want to make sure that the public understands, if you can clarify, because in the proposal from Matrix, it does talk about the site being approximately 0.75 acres, and that block consists of 1 square, 2-story structure and asphalt. Please note that the block 115, lot 51 is currently owned by the township. I could see how someone reading this could be a little confused, especially when former Councilman Krokoviac points to the fact that we don't have to purchase areas, that we have, he seems to think we have an absolute right to redevelopment properties in the redevelopment area.
It's a strange configuration, and we own, for lack of a better term, a donut, part of of a donut hole.
Yes.
And we lease that. We've historically, this goes back to the 90s. There's a lease that, which it's $150 a month, and they pay every quarter. That they lease that donut hole back, from us, for their operations. So it's a very small piece of that. Obviously, we're not going to repurchase property we own.
Thank you.
we already own that. But it obviously, we, you know, the process of evaluating it, we're going to evaluate, you
The
know, our
entire-
portion
yeah.
as well as their portion
Of
as
course.
far as any outstanding environmental issues.
Thank you for that, Mr. Gross. I just wanted to make sure that that was clear for the public. As been alleged throughout this process of the redevelopment of downtown, the township is not purchasing property it already owns. It doesn't have to do that. And we do not have absolute control of the properties within the redevelopment zone. I don't know where former Councilman Krokoviac understands that that is the case. And then lastly, the Phase 1 that was done, that Phase 1 was strictly done on the parcels that the township owns already, and this next phase?
Well, this is a Phase 2. The Phase
Yes.
1 is.
Okay, that was done already. Okay.
And just so you and the public understand, Phase 1 is basically an examination of the records. There's nothing on, no site examination goes on. That's the Phase 2, is where they actually look and see what's really going on at the site, you know, outside, in addition to whatever they found in the records.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, Mr. Gross, we were talking about the resolution. So the resolutions from AFSCME and the fire superior officers and FMBA, the Department of Public Works, Public Safety, Telecommunications, PBA superior officers. So we did all agree to extend their contract for negotiations over for this year, and I just congratulate you on this. And can you give us more details on?
Yeah, this is a one-year extension to the existing, all 7 of our existing contracts with our collective bargaining units. It was a exercise, I think, that was very positive. It was very well participated in, and I think in a very positive manner. And I'm very happy to report that all of our units passed it, and we're looking forward to our next steps after we get through this, and continue on with our dialogue with our collective bargaining units. So.
Any other questions at this time?
Yes.
I'm going to go backwards again. Councilman Williams?
I didn't have anything to pull. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilman?
I'm not pulling any to vote against them.
Okay,
I do
question?
want to talk about 203. When you look at the exhibit, it still references on page 2, second clause. Parties agree that the deed restriction encumbering the individual units within the property, restricting their use to low and moderate income residential housing shall run in perpetuity. Accordingly, paragraphs 4 and 5 of the agreement are hereby amended to state the following. In paragraph 4, there's some language in clause 2 or section 2 that says construction of a 7,500 square foot public use room to be controlled by the seller, to serve as a community room, satellite library, or other public use as determined by the township, the community room use. I'm a little confused. It's control. What does controlled by the seller mean?
Well, we are the seller.
So we get to tell them how we want to use that room.
That space, yes.
So when are we going to do that?
Whenever we want to use it. In other words, you know, we will maintain control and be able to use it as we see fit as our needs change.
So specifically what I'm referencing is, when are we going to decide whether or not that is going to be a satellite library as promised in multiple public sessions?
That's a decision that is financial in nature as well. It's probably a decision that's going to be made as we approach the library leaving, And it'll have to be made after the property is built and is up and function as it approaches that. So I think those, you know, your whatever your use is going to be, it will require a budget, and that's going to have to be done as part of a budget process in the year when you're actually going to do it. Now, as far as any, I'll say, use commitments, if that's the council, you know, has a viewpoint on that as far as what to do right now, and make, you know, that's the case. But I'll just say that any commitment that the council makes today, if situation changes in the future, that commitment can be changed. What can't be changed is that we have control of that for public use. And so therefore, you know, whatever the council at any given time determines the proper use of that space is, that's what it will be.
Okay, because there is a legitimate concern shared by me. Members of the community have reached out. Some have expressed the concern, as I have expressed in our council meetings, that there will not be a satellite library there. In fact, in the conversation Mr. Trink and I had several council meetings ago, encouraged him to stop telling the public that there's going to be a satellite library there, because we know there is no budget for a satellite library. We're not going to add to the budget enough money to hire and staff a 7,500 square foot satellite library. At least that's what's been expressed to me. Mr. Trink did not push back on that. And I want us to stop saying that, because we are going to end up facing some level of backlash for promising something that's not going to be delivered. If we are going to make it a satellite library, I think we should be clear. That's what we're going to do. And if we're not, I think we should be clear that we're not. Now, I was not supportive of Executive Drive. I wasn't supportive of the components to make Executive Drive happen. But when I lost that battle, I was not going to be a curmudgeon and just, you know, poke my finger in someone's eye. I've tried to influence the project in a way that I think makes sense for the community. And what does make sense is leaving a satellite down here. But if we're not going to do that, we need to be clear so that we can begin working on what the plan B will be. So that's my encouragement to you, Mr. Gross, as well as Mr. Trink and all the others that are involved in this project. You know, we have language in here that makes it appear as if something's going to happen that is not, in my opinion, going to happen. Second question I have is...
Well, but
Yeah.
before you go on to the second question,
Sure.
if I can just address that. There have been many expressions of intentions about what to do, not just for this, but you know, the council and just ideas about whether it be this project or any other project, and they're all driven by budgets. And I can't tell you today that's not, that a decision won't be made that will lend itself to a satellite library there. I think there's a desire for that. And I think, you know, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen because the library makes it happen, not because, anyone else. So it would be something the library would look at and make a determination of what the financial ramifications of that are. And you know, it's not impossible that library use, as you imagine, it may not be what the library use is in 5 years, and there may be other library uses that will work in that space. So I'm certainly not discounting it. I'm certainly not saying it's definite. I'm saying that what we've said all along is that there was a desire to address that, to try to deal with that, and I think that's a sincere desire, and whether that's doable will really be determined by the economics in place at the time when the space comes on board, and you know we've addressed other things in the past, you know, that maybe we thought were not addressable, and so I don't necessarily I don't disagree with you that we certainly shouldn't say with any certainty what that space is going to be. But I do think it's fair to express desires and objectives, and to look at different alternatives, as much as I don't like using the phrase outside the box, but things that we wouldn't maybe normally think of as library uses that may very well be, again.
So I appreciate
I'm not the person to do that imagination, but we have a lot of talented people that are. So
I appreciate your candor, Mr. Gross. I recall a conversation I had, I believe in April, where the quote was, "We're going to leave a satellite library," right? Like, you're worrying about the wrong thing. We're going to leave a satellite library. And now we're saying we have a desire. The desire is a little bit less than a commitment. And I think it is important enough. And so what I'm trying to do is impress upon you and the entire administration the need to make that real. Now, I know that there's going to be some budgetary concerns, but that's why we have to make some hard choices, because there is a need for space down here, especially for computers, for folks that don't have them at home. I don't want to beat a dead horse, and I appreciate your candor with me. Thank you. Second question I have, and I don't, I'm not a lawyer, so this could chalk it up to my naivete, but it says that in multiple spaces it says at least 40 age-restricted, low and moderate income housing or residential units. But in other spaces it says 64, and it's a very specific number, and I just want to know why there's the difference. Is there?
I don't even have a copy. What number was it?
If you look on the same page in paragraph A below it, it references at least 40 age-restricted residential units.
Councilman, what page and what paragraph?
Page 2, this is of the exhibit, which was updated on 7/15. This is Exhibit A, page 2, under Section 4, then 4A. Starts the preparation of a perpetual deed restriction. It goes on to say, for the benefit of the general public, that restricts the use of the property to the construction and operation of at least 40 age-restricted, low and or moderate income housing, and that all of them will be residential except for one for the superintendent. Now, I recognize we have a significant number, several hundred, I believe, affordable housing units that we have to build in town, that we owe as a part of our mandate. And I understand that the 64 will certainly eat into that number. But is there room for the developer to, and I couldn't understand why the developer would want to. I would assume it would be a more profitable project with 64 than 40. But is there room in here for the developer to scale that back and do less than the 64?
Are you talking about Exhibit A, amendment to sale and
Yes.
purchase agreement? On page 2.
Yes.
Condition regarding use of property. Mhm.
Sorry?
Yeah, the
I'm
paragraph.
sorry, condition regarding use of property, yes.
Paragraph 4?
Mhm.
Yeah. It says it in 4, it says it in the, below it in A, but in other places it references a very specific number, 64.
It says
I
of
want-
at least 40?
It does.
It doesn't say of 40?
No, it says at least 40, correct.
At least
Right,
40.
and it says at least 40, so my interpretation of that would be he can't go lower than that number, but
That's
maybe
correct.
there was flexibility because costs may change between now and then.
And this is also-
I didn't interpret this as a reduction in the amount that he has agreed to install, but this language, again, from our real estate perspective, is common. It doesn't mean that they're not going to do the agreed amount, but they can't go less than 40 for any reason.
So if that's the case, then they have the ability to scale the project back?
The approved plan is
I mean-
for 64.
Right, so, in the resolution that we are considering tonight, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The eighth whereas clause says, under the proposed settlement, the township will be able to continue the proposed project with development of 64 low and moderate income senior housing apartments.
That's the approved plan.
Right.
Right.
But the exhibit that's attached that speaks in detail about what they can and cannot do says it has to be at least 40.
Right.
They
But
haven't
that's,
been approved to do 40.
My question is it possible for them, based on this agreement, to scale it back and not do 64? That's pretty much a yes or a no question.
It clearly says at least 40, so I can't, based on the language itself, I would say that's correct. But
Council
it's a little
President,
puzzling.
we should get Richard Trank on the phone.
Mr. Kaiser, I couldn't hear you.
Council President, that's also the fact that if any changes are going to be made to the units, then the developer will lose the federal tax credits that were given to him for this project if it goes below that. He was given 9 credits because of the number of units. So it wouldn't benefit him to reduce it, but I think that
So does
Mr. Trank
are the
should
credits
be on the call.
Are the credits, does the project, the 9% tax credits that Mr. Alpert is receiving, is that only if he builds 64, or is that if he builds at least 40? You guys are nodding your heads. I don't think you know the answer.
I think it's not, I think he has to build
Which is why I said we should get
64.
Mr. Trank on the phone. Or we can table this.
I think we table it and try to get Mr. Trink on the phone. I think none of us can actually satisfy the answer to your
Yeah,
question.
I don't know the legal questions that you're answering. There's never been any discussion about anything other than 64 units. Then my understanding is that the 9% credits are based on an application for 64 units. And frankly, the financing most likely would be dependent upon more units, not less. Because from an income point of view, the reason, the credits make the
Work,
units.
yeah, no, I get the math.
So I can't tell you whether there's wiggle room. This is an agreement that is, quite frankly, if I understand correctly, has been approved by the town legal, and all the other parties, as well as the document in order to settle this, whatever the outstanding issues.
So let me ask a different way.
I'm sorry?
Let me ask it a different way. If we pass this resolution 20322 that specifically says 64, is he then allowed by anything else within this agreement to do less than that? I mean, we're passing a resolution.
I don't know that this agreement is the settlement agreement, right? It's the settlement agreement for our litigation between our party. The developer is not a party to this.
I understand. I understand what you're saying.
So this
So
is,
then that's
this,
actually
this
even-
is, this is our agreement with our opposing party
Right.
to moving forward. And this is what our legal team has put together, saying this is what we need. And by the way, their legal team
Yeah.
has approved this too. So
They're being the
if
Alpert
we're going to
group.
make change, you couldn't make changes in this if you wanted to.
Yeah.
This would have to go back and start all over again if there's change.
Yeah.
Again.
So to your point, Mr. Gross, we don't have to table 203. I mean, I think we can still vote on that because that's about the settlement. But I do think what in, reading this has provided at least me is some confusion regarding whether or not legally the developer is able to scale it back. Now, I'm not saying it's financially smart. I'm not saying he will. I'm just asking legally if he's able to, because that was a part of the agreement. There were two things.
And I would have to defer to Mr. Trank on that.
Yeah.
He hasn't
Mr.
answered me.
Trank, I just reached out to Mr. Trank. He's trying to call in, see if he's calling in.
Can we move on until we get him on the phone? We don't want another 6 hour. And if there's nothing further, there's no need to continue discussing this until we get Mr. Trink on the phone.
Well, I had a comment about this.
Okay.
Okay,
Councilwoman Castellino.
Yeah, thank you. So, just real quick, I understand the concerns of my colleague, Councilman Rutherford, and And if I spoke with him in the past, I appreciate, him concerned that if a satellite library does not happen, but again, the Friends group, looking to fundraise, we have stated over and over again our wishes for that site to be an extension, and will be library services there. We all don't have a crystal ball, I get that. In, hopefully 2 years when a building is being built and a room fitted out, or hopefully less than 2 years. But whatever the case may be, that was the intention. So to make the public think differently, I agree. We need to have a conversation sooner than later of where we want to be with this project. So misinformation isn't out there in the public, confusing them. And just, work on moving forward with it. But again, we got to get through tonight and approve this settlement. So with that, I just wanted to add those comments in, and I'm not sure, maybe you might want to call Mr. Trank, Mr. Gross, or if you've tried calling in.
Just spoke with Mr. Trank, and he's in the process of logging into the meeting.
Thank you. And just during the planning process, to your point, I don't think we are making any promises whatsoever. The 7,500 square feet was always presented as a community center, community room. They talked about maybe a health center, talked about different things. And in this provision, it says the construction of the 7,500 square feet public use room to be controlled by the seller to serve as a community room, satellite library, or other public use as determined by the township. And we're not there, so I don't think we're making any promises. It will be budget-driven, as we said. Just heard that there will be funds. The Friends of the Library can raise funds. We can look at grants. It brings back, if anyone from the library is listening, there was someone I went to grade school. Her name was Yvonne Porter. She ran a satellite library, actually, at the community house. So we did, in fact, have a satellite library many, many years ago. So we're not making any promises, and we'll see when we get there.
Council President, Mr. Trank is in the meeting.
Good evening. Good evening, Council
Good evening,
President.
Mr. Trank, thank you. There was a question in the agreement. Mr. Rutherford, you can ask your question.
Mr. Trank, on page 2 of Exhibit A, it references in 2 places.
Resolution 203-22.
Yeah, that there is to, I'll read it exactly, the construction and operation of at least 40 age-restricted, low-end and/or moderate-income housing. It's referenced that way in at least 2 places that I highlighted, but what we've been talking about is 64 units. Now, I just wanted to know if this allows the developer to scale back the project from 64 to some number less than 64, but at least equal to 40.
The intention of this project is that it will be, first of all, the entire building will be affordable and age restricted, as you're referencing. The reason that there's generally that, we'll call it cushion or leeway, is if there becomes a financing or construction issue in the field. We certainly, in every discussion that I've been involved in with Mr. Albert, is exactly what you said, 64 units. Having said that, again, financing is an issue, construction is an issue, and we're going to address this going forward. What you're looking at it is in the context tonight of the settlement with the Malanga litigation. And what we're trying to avoid is obviously any more, we'll call it hiccups in this process. So we do not want to, number one, we want to end all litigation, and that's what we've negotiated, this settlement. And we want to make sure that the 9% tax credits, which you're familiar with, which are critical to the financing of this project, are not lost. So I think that's why you have that cushion. Again, every anticipation is, and certainly I'll report back to the council if there's any change in number of units, but again, the cushion is there because of anything that might happen in the field or with regard to financing.
Mr. Trank, I'm sorry, can you also, just in that same exhibit, it does say that all units shall be, so there is no room for any units outside of the one for superintendent to not be low or moderate income.
Yes, you're absolutely right.
They all have to be whatever that number is, and I just want to clarify that for the public in case there's any concern or question about the actual development of the property still being and shall be completely, all units, whether they're 40 or 64, shall be low or moderate income. Also, Mr. Trank, if there is a change, can you explain the process? If there is a change down the road where there needs to, for financing reasons or otherwise, if there is a change in the number of the apartments because of the currently existing 9% tax credits, does there have to be another application or an amendment with the state to reduce that number?
Short answer, I don't know the answer. I can't answer totally. Mr. Rose might have some experience with that, so I don't want to provide wrong information on that. So I believe that, again, what you said is absolutely right. This project will be 100% affordable, low, moderate income. It has to be, or else it doesn't even qualify for the 9% tax credits. I think it's just a field issue, or if as a result of the number of floors, it somehow impacts the scope of the project. Not that there would ever be any change in the mix, so to speak. But I don't know if there has to be that modification, if it necessitates. I think it would probably go the other way, that because of some dictates through the state process or whatnot, that's what would affect the scope. But I don't know which comes first in terms of that process. Obviously, this project has been totally financed, and I'll use the word penciled out, based upon 64 units of low and affordable and senior housing. That has certainly been every discussion, and that's what basically everybody's agreed to.
And Mr. Trank, you and I had a discussion about this as well with respect to the mutual release. Can you just, in layman's terms for the public who is here and those who will be listening at a later time, clarify exactly why the need for this settlement and what the change is with respect to the as opposed to the 60 years of it being deed restricted, now it is deed restricted forever.
Yes. So
Thank you.
what you said it correctly, and the council in July when we met, I was there live, and I apologize for not being there live tonight, but the council approved the amendment to the contract, which basically clarified exactly what you just said, Councilwoman, that it's perpetual and meaning forever, it will be deed restricted. So the reason this mutual release, to go to your direct question, is, frankly, when this new litigation was commenced, since it was clear, we sent a frivolous litigation letter and basically said, we have to be done with this. You can't keep suing us for whatever reasons you may believe. And we moved to combine the new litigation, with our affordable housing settlement, which the council approved several years ago, because that affordable housing settlement committed us to this project and committed us to, as you said, perpetual affordable senior housing on this site. So we moved to dismiss the case, we moved to enforce our litigants' rights on the affordable housing litigation, and we threatened sanctions. As a result of that, we had a conference before the judge, and what was hammered out was exactly what you're looking at tonight and what you approved at the July 19th council meeting, which is basically we clarified the permit restriction, and we clarified that we will never be sued again on this project, because there will be a subdivision of where the existing library is, because it has to be a separate lot and block for financing purposes. And we clarified that there'll be no more litigation with regard to this proposed project on the existing library. So that is why there's a mutual release. We're agreeing we're not paying a nickel, and we're waiving a claim against Mr. Malanga for frivolous litigation, which we intended to pursue, but for this settlement.
Thank you, Mr. Trink. That's it for me, Council
you.
President.
Council President, I just want to acknowledge that I was not done. I was still in midst of my comments.
Councilman Rutherford?
Thank you, Council President. So I find it interesting that the language is really clear with regard to all units shall be affordable, which was not the question. I didn't question that. No one from the public has questioned me on that. But the language is really clear about that. The language is not clear about the scale and scope. And here's why that's important to me. When you look at the reason why I have been supportive up till this point of this particular settlement is because, one, we were taking a good number of the affordable housing units that we owe. We were eating into that number with 64. That's an important part of it for me.
Right.
And I recognized all of the moving parts that were required to make that happen. And so while I was not supportive of the overall project, I was supportive of reducing the number of affordable units that we owe. And I think this is a good step in that direction. I'm also aware that when this was initially presented to me, whether it was presented to you this way or not, I do not know. It was presented to me when we were discussing moving the library up to Executive Drive, that we would leave a satellite library down here. That was not a desire. It was not a maybe. It was not a nice to have. It was presented to me that we would have a satellite library in this space. And that was enough to allow me those two things. So now we get to this moment, which has absolutely nothing to do with either of those. It is the settlement. But in discussing this settlement, it is revealed that the commitment for the satellite library is now a desire. And the number of affordable units that we are going to build there could be reduced. And if I heard Mr. Trink correctly, the 9% tax credits may not be jeopardized if they reduce it at all. So, and I don't know, because I'm not an attorney. So now, based on that, I came into tonight prepared to support this resolution. I'd like to pull it because I'd now like to vote no.
I would like, Council President, if I could respond, because,
Of course.
thank you. I'm sure, Councilman Rutherford, you didn't intend to misstate anything, so I'm going to just take it factual. Number one, no one from the administration has committed, and there is no such document that commits that the 7,500 square feet at the existing library will be committed to a satellite library. In fact, you and I have had very specific discussions where you've indicated your desire to see it possibly put somewhere else on the Main Street corridor. And what I know the mayor has indicated, and certainly I've indicated, is that's going to be subject, in the end, to a future council decision, because everything that goes with the satellite library, as you well know, and certainly as every member of this council knows who's been involved in this, that means money. That means personnel. That means a whole host of things. We all know what it costs. You approve in the end and are aware of the library budget. So the concept that anybody from the administration or any document, including the document that this council unanimously approved in July, said that there is going to be a satellite library at the existing library site, is not consistent with any representation made by the administration and any discussion that's happened with any council in person. What we've committed to, and what Mr. Alpert's committed to, is that it will be, and I'm quoting from the amendment that you unanimously approved in July, it will be a 7,500 square foot public use room to be controlled by the seller, that's the township, to serve as a community room, satellite library, or other public use as determined by the township. So you, meaning a future council, will in the end determine that if, when, and however it gets there, and it will involve money. So presumably you will not make that decision until you're presented with a fulsome understanding of what that entails. So that are the facts. And then with regard to again, I'm sure you didn't mean it intentionally, but the twist to say that I am representing or stating to you, and I particularly answered just a minute ago that I was not telling you the nuances of 9% financing other than what Mr. Albert has made very clear, and we've made very clear to the court, that without 9% tax credits, there will be no affordable housing on this site. It does not work. And again, every member of this council has met with, has spoken to Mr. Albert, and he has explained that to them. And there's no other analysis that Mr. Gross, as the CFO, or Mr. Hanley, as our outside consultant, has indicated that is any way, shape, or form. So I am not saying that this project pencils out at 40 units. We don't want 40 units. We want 64 units. That's what is involved. But again, I'll give you a specific example. On Executive Drive, you've approved 425 units as part of that redevelopment area. And in fact, the developer has come back and said they're only going to put 423 units, but they're going to live up to the affordable requirement. They just want to put more amenity space. That doesn't deviate at all from the approvals by this body in the redevelopment or by the planning board. So when you get in the field, things happen. And again, the most important thing here is we don't want more litigation. Every member of this council, every member is able to know everything that's going on with regard to anything that involves town. But again, so factually, this is every intention of this project is 64 affordable and low income housing, as Councilwoman Matute Brown said, and as we've always presented. And every intention on this 7,500 square feet is, and I'm looking at the document, community room use. Again, whether or not that includes satellite library or whatnot, is never been said that that'll occur, and that would not be an accurate statement by us to make, because how do you sign that blank check? We need to get the new library into the new space because it's going to be a state-of-the-art library that's going to be a testament to this town for over 100 years. How this project won't even be done, as you know, we're not allowing them to start on the existing library site until the new library is open, which won't be at least until next March, April, or May. So this project won't start at the earliest probably till August or September of 2023. It's an 18-month project, probably, or 12 to 18 months for construction. So we won't even be in a position to decide what goes into this 7,500 square feet till probably 2025. And at that point, God forbid we have a health emergency, God forbid we have whatever we have, at that point, the council, the administration, whoever that may be, will make those determinations based upon what is in the best interest of the town and what the council approves financially. So I hope that clarifies the record, and I am sure that that's consistent with the councilman's recollection, because I know he and I had the discussion directly. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Trink.
So I'm sure Mr. Trink doesn't intend to misrepresent anything either, but in our conversation in April, what I said regarding a satellite library was, if you're not going to put one in this unit here with this 7,500 square feet, then we need to put one on Main Street as a part of our redevelopment. And if we are going to put one there, then we don't. But if we're not, if there's any wiggle room, then we need to include that in our negotiations with whomever develops this Main Street project that we have being developed now. And our conversation at that point in time was, we can cross that bridge when we get to it. Right now, we're putting a library in this senior building here. So that's my recollection of the conversation. That's my phone conversation with Mr. Trink when I was in Charleston, South Carolina, taking that cell phone call while I was on vacation. So, but anyway, this is about the settlement. And part of my challenge is, we say one thing and then we do something else. And this is all recorded. Our council meetings are recorded. Several council meetings ago, I said what I said earlier. Mr. Trink, we've got to stop telling people we're going to put a library there if we know we are not. And it feels to me, let me finish, please.
We don't know.
We do know. Let me finish, please. So if that is the case, and it appears to be the case, and if this language allows a modification of the project, which my layman's review says it does, that does not inspire trust. And so this resolution is going to pass anyway, but my vote is going to be no, because I don't want to continue down this pathway, saying one thing and doing something else.
Council
Okay, so-
President, just for the
Excuse me 1
record.
minute. I just wanted to say, and Mr. Trank referenced it already, July 19th, I saved the resolution 18622. This same updated version was attached. We approved this unanimously. That same provision,
I didn't catch
condition
it then.
regarding use of property, same thing. There is no.
Didn't catch it.
There is nothing
still like to
that's
pull it.
saying, you can,
Thank
good.
That's what thank you, Council President. I was going to say, because I am looking at the minutes from our meeting that we just approved for July 19th, and this council, including Councilman Rutherford, approved this amendment, which is Resolution 18622. So I'm a bit confused why we are now walking
I didn't
back.
catch it then. I just said that to the
But there
council
is no-
president.
I'm still
Can we-
talking,
can
though,
we-
Councilman.
Can
interrupted me
we,
as well.
I'm sorry, point of order. Can we move on? If there's no
can.
further comment, it's been pulled, and our votes will reflect our intentions. Thank you.
Okay. There we go. Did we have any more questions? Councilwoman Castellino? Oh, you do.
On other resolutions.
Yes.
I just
Yes,
want to add one thing to be crystal clear about this. No council can bind a future council on anything. So I just want to make clear that
That's right.
you may have an intent, you can express an intent, you can have, and you can try to do what you want to do. At the end of the day, if a future council decides they're going to do something else, they'll do it. So that's all.
And that is
And I
clearly
just- and I
spelled
just
out
want-
in the conditions of in this provision.
Okay.
In this provision. It's clearly spelled out.
I've made
I
my
just wanted
feelings
to add, again, this is an agreement between us and an opposing party. And we would like to have as fewest restrictions as possible in that, in order to give this council and future councils the most flexibilities, because whatever comes your way 25 years from now, after having a library on that site and a decision is made to take it out, if it's in this agreement that it has to be a library, then you couldn't make that decision. So this was negotiated to give this council and future councils the most flexibility that it can have in dealing with this site. As far as what you're going to do with it now or in the future, and with the developer, you've already made that decision. But this gives you the flexibility with the people that were opposing this originally, for this council and future councils.
With a covenant not to sue. Councilwoman Matu Brown, did you have?
Not on this
Okay,
resolution,
sure.
just on, I just had questions. I'm not pulling anything. But, Mr. Gross, if we can look at Resolution 200-22, item E, and then the same question related for item D. So the resolution, item E, talks about purchasing a truck chassis and a body for the salt spreader from a particular company, and also the installation of that same purchase product by a different company. So I'm happy when I was reviewing the detailed specifications of the contract for Resolution 200-22, that because there is a cooperative being used for this purchase, that being Sourcewell Cooperative, there is a discount that the township is receiving for the total purchase of that. So I thought,
Yeah, I think it's fair to say we don't buy anything without a discount.
oh, well, that's why.
And it's just a matter of how much of a discount and how we came about it.
Absolutely.
And so this is Sourcewell, which is a national co-op.
Yes.
Who they do the bidding for us, and then we buy into it. And we take, with a national co-op, we go a step further. We also advertise it and give local vendors the opportunity to come in and say, yeah, we can do better, or we can match that, and in order. So we've never had that happen. but we do put the opportunity out to make it so that it's even more competitive than what the co-op said. The other is a state-recognized co-op, and again, they've done the bidding for us, and they do, that takes advantage of volume, because the state co-ops, and Sourcewell for that matter, because of the volume, they tend to get better pricing than we could if we went out with a straight bid. So these are two good examples of what we do every day, which is shop for the best prices for when we're buying, commodities or things that are definable. It becomes more difficult to, when we have discussions about this all the time, when we're buying things like professional services, where judgment and it comes into play, and a lot of other factors. But when we're buying things that we can define, this is the way we do it, and we don't buy anything without a discount, and a significant discount.
And I have to say that it is a very significant discount. It's over $142,000 in that discount. So then I was and I just saw that it is warranted for, and that was going to be my question. But then when I was looking at 201, Resolution 201, I wondered how come we're not using Sourcewell for this, for the same savings.
The co-ops don't all buy the same products, so it's a matter of what they have available, what they had demand for.
Okay.
It's just
That's fair.
we shop them all, and we try to go to the one that give us the best price at that time. And sometimes you'll have 2 or 3 different co-ops with the same product, and we'll go to the one with the least price, and they will be different. It's just because their buying powers are different as well amongst them.
Okay. Well, that does it for me. I do just want to comment on the resolutions with respect to the memorandum of agreement with all of our unions in town. And I have to say, I think former Councilman Krokoviac asked, why are we doing it 1 year as opposed to typically what we've done in the past is for 4 years. I don't know if we've done it for 5, but in my time here, it's been a 4-year contract. And I have to say that for me, I am grateful to the administration. I'm grateful to the union leadership for all of our unions who thought enough of the new incoming administration not to bind them. And this is something, Mr. Kaiser, you just mentioned. I think it's fair not to bind a new incoming administration, as we all know whoever that is, with a contract that was, that's going to literally, hold them to it for the next 4 years. I think this is just a better way to be able to budget in the future, and certainly thank, again, our union leadership for thinking and cooperating and working on this. And lastly, it is a 3% increase in their salaries. It is afforded by our budget. And the way I look at this is that there were many years in contracts that they agreed to where they took 0 increases. So a 3% increase for 1 year, allowing them to negotiate a new contract with the new administration is commendable. So I thank you and the administration and our union leadership. Thank you. That's it for me, Council President. Thank you.
So, Madam Clerk,
Are there any other resolutions being pulled?
No.
Okay.
Except for 20322.
Right. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
The consent agenda is implemented. Councilman Rutherford pulled 203-22, resolution approving mutual general release, covenant not to sue, and dismissal litigation by and between Kevin Malanga and the Township of West Orange and West Orange Senior Housing Urban Renewal LLC.
As I stated before, I came in tonight prepared to vote for this. I'm a little disappointed with the responses I've received with regard to the 2 issues, not just tonight, but over the course of time. So for that reason, I'm voting against it. And I do expect that my votes going forward, where trust is required, will be considering these kinds of moments.
Thank you. I don't read it that way, so I make a motion to approve Resolution 203-22.
Second.
Councilwoman Castellino?
Yes.
Councilwoman Matute Brown?
Yes.
Councilman Rutherford?
No.
Councilwoman Williams?
Yes.
Council President McCartney?
Yes.
Council President, before we move on, I think it's fair to say to the public, because it is not fair to say that this council is not being clear or the administration is not being clear. Councilman Rutherford voted for this because it got past him. So the clarity was before him in the packet that he received Thursday before the last council meeting, July 19th. So I don't think it a fair assessment to say that he was not, that he can't vote on anything that is not clear to him. Thank you.
I think this kind of commentary, Council
not,
President, I
right.
was mentioned by name. I think this kind of commentary is disruptive
It is, and we've had
and
the conversation.
destructive to council meetings, right?
Yes.
And so, unlike you,
Excuse
can
me,
I just
excuse
finish
me.
my statement, please? Can I? I was mentioned by
sure.
name, right? I mean, I think that's only fair. If I'm going to be mentioned by name to respond. I didn't say the council had been misleading, and I based my decision on what I communicated to everyone was a series of things. Now, unlike some of my council colleagues, or at least one of my council colleagues, I can admit when I'm wrong. I can admit if something got past me,
Okay.
and that did. And so I'm pointing it out tonight because now I recognize it and wanted to have further conversation about it. And I
We
think
did.
that is my responsibility.
And thank you. And we did have a discussion on it. And that's why we pulled it, and that's why we
Exactly.
voted on it. Okay. Moving on.
Ordinances on second and final reading, 2685-22, an ordinance amending and supplementing Chapter 25 Land Use Regulations of the Revised General Ordinances to implement a settlement agreement with Fair Share Housing Center. Is there a motion to introduce on second and final
So
reading?
moved.
Second.
Okay. Councilwoman Castellino?
Yes.
Councilwoman Matute Brown?
Yes.
Councilman Rutherford?
Yes.
Councilwoman Williams?
Yes.
Council President McCartney?
Yes.
Okay. This is the time for public hearing. If anybody in the general public would like to make a comment, please raise your hand.
Mr. Fagan, are there any commenters on the Zoom?
At present, there are no hands raised. I'll give it one more chance. Any member of the public wishing to make a public comment on ordinance 2685-22, now is the time to raise your hand to make public comment. Council President, seeing none.
Thank you, Mr. Fagan. And again, we read the letter from the Planning Board. This is the proposed amendment to Land Use Regulations, Chapter 25, settlement agreement with Fair Share Housing Center. The proposed ordinance furthers the goal of and objectives of the township's 2019 master plan update. In particular, provides for the housing needs of seniors and low and moderate income households, and Principle 1, encourage appropriate residential development. Particularly senior and specialized housing options should be supported, as well as long potential development impacts are addressed.
Is there a motion to approve on second and final reading?
So moved.
Second.
Councilwoman Castellino?
Yes.
Councilwoman Matute Brown?
Yes.
Councilman Rutherford?
No.
Councilwoman Williams?
Yes.
Council President McCartney?
Yes.
Okay. Ordinance 2692-22, an ordinance amending and supplementing Chapter 7 Traffic, subsection 7-29.1, speed limits of the revised general ordinances of West Orange to establish a speed limit of 25 miles per hour on Mount Pleasant Avenue from Prospect Avenue to Jones Place, a county road, subject to the consent of the Essex County Commissioners. Is there a motion to introduce on second and final reading?
So moved.
Second.
Councilwoman Castellino? Councilwoman Castellino?
Oh, I'm sorry, yes.
Councilwoman Matute Brown?
Yes.
Councilman Rutherford?
Yes.
Councilwoman Williams?
Yes.
Council President McCartney?
Yes.
Is there anyone in the general public that wishes to make a comment on this ordinance? Please raise your hand.
Once again, any member of the public wishing to make public comment only on ordinance 2692-22, now is your opportunity. Please raise your hand. Council President, I am seeing none.
Thank you. And I wanted to say thank you to the police department, the engineering department, even the pedestrian safety advisory board, all weighing in on this, and particularly for the county for approving these recommendations that have been made. We know that there is more work that has to get done, but this will satisfy that curve around Mount Pleasant Avenue heading east on Mount Pleasant. So thank you all.
Is there a motion to approve 2692-22 on second and
So
final
moved.
reading?
Second.
Councilwoman Castellino?
Yes.
Councilwoman Matute Brown?
Yes.
Councilman Rutherford?
Yes.
Councilwoman Williams?
Yes.
Council President McCartney?
Yes.
Ordinances on first reading, 2693-22, an ordinance amending and supplementing Chapter 7, Traffic, subsection 7-32.1, handicap parking on streets, and subsection 7-32.2, restricted parking zones of the revised general ordinances, 149 Watchung, 124 High, 111 Chestnut, 138 Chestnut, and 106 Elm. Is there a motion to introduce on first reading?
So moved.
Second.
Councilwoman Castellino?
Yes.
Councilwoman Matute Brown?
Yes.
Councilman Rutherford?
Yes.
Councilwoman Williams?
Yes.
Council President McCartney?
Yes.
Okay. 2694-22, an ordinance creating a reclassification and salary schedule of certain Township of West Orange employees, setting forth their titles, classification, and salary ranges, and adopting a salary guide and establishing the employee's status as a Township employee and under the guidelines of the New Jersey Department of Personnel. Is there a motion to introduce on first reading?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Councilwoman Castellino?
Yes.
Councilwoman Matute Brown?
Yes.
Councilman Rutherford?
Yes.
Councilwoman Williams?
Yes.
Council President McCartney?
Yes.
Okay, now we're on to pending matters, new matters, council discussion.
And we did not do council liaison announcements either because we were exactly on time on our conference agenda. But I did want to mention again, Councilwoman, I don't know if you heard at the beginning of the meeting, we were talking about setting up a workshop for the capital improvement budget to revisit that.
That would be, yes.
You're saying yes. Okay,
Yeah,
so
I would certainly support
we
that.
do have quite a few things. The rent leveling board, we have an ABC hearing that still needs to be scheduled, and also this capital improvement budget workshop. So let's go back to the rent leveling board. There was, thank you, Councilwoman Williams, for at least giving us a jumping off point with August 23rd as the date for that appeals for the rent leveling board decision. And does August 23rd, I know that there was an email went out that everyone was supposed to have respond by Friday. I hope everyone was able to do that.
I'm good.
You're good.
I'm
Okay.
good.
Yes.
Council President, can I
Yes, sir.
speak
Mr.
to the
Kaiser.
Rent Leveling Board appeal?
Yes, please.
I'll be representing the council with respect to that appeal. I have watched all 4 of the sessions before the Rent Leveling Board with respect to this issue. I did that weeks ago, and when I did, I frankly didn't take notes, so I'm going to have to go through it again for reasons I'm going to explain.
Can you speak closer to the mic?
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear? Is that,
We can hear.
okay. Is this working?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I really can't tell. So the appellate division has indicated that when there's an appeal of a rent leveling board decision, it's based on the record below. We have no transcript, and to get a transcript quickly would be almost impossible to do probably at this point, given that there were 4 meetings, at least 4 hours, I think, of testimony and deliberation. So what I'm going to do is watch these again. I'm going to make notes as to where you would need to start and stop to try to save you all time, but you're going to need to watch those board meetings and make your own notes to the extent that you want to. I'm going to give you a written memorandum. It's already been started. It's going to probably be kind of long. I hope it will help you so that you'll understand the issues and what you have to determine. I do think that we should go forward under the circumstances when we can, hopefully on the 23rd if everybody can make it that night. If not, we'll have to figure out something else. But you won't be listening to actual testimony again. You'll be basing your decision on the record below. So if everybody watches ahead of time, and I'll explain this in the memorandum, then basically you'll only have to ask questions and deliberate, I think, on that evening.
So the other thing, part of that is to determine what time we want to meet. And are we thinking 6:30?
6:30.
6:30 works.
6:30?
This is the
Mr.
23rd?
On the 23rd, does that work?
It works for me, I just checked.
Okay, Mr. Kaiser, that works for you?
Any time works for me.
Okay, 6:30 on August 23rd.
Council President, since we're on that date, and I'd spoken to Councilwoman Williams before on this, if the task force is ready to present if there are any recommendations, I can't say whether or not there will be, but if they have any recommendations, can we also put them on that agenda for the 23rd?
I've never had a rent leveling appeals before. I've never sat through that. I have no idea how long that will take. We can, I'm going to say tentatively, just because.
None of us have had.
I know. So I would say yes, tentatively, but if we see that it takes too long, then we have to reschedule. But since we all agree on that date.
On that
then-
date?
right.
Okay.
Okay, can
All
we
right.
do that?
I'm going to try very hard to simplify and to direct, as I can.
Thank you.
But obviously, I don't make these decisions, the council does, so.
Okay.
I
Thank you.
appreciate that, because we always talked about having like a separate ABC hearing, a separate cannabis, so at least we all agree
Yeah,
on that
and
date.
can I make a recommendation? I'm sorry, you can't see me
Councilwoman
raise my
Castellino,
hand.
yes?
Yeah, so, when we first started discussing how we would go through the process with the applicants, we said we would put that at the back of the meeting, and they would be separately done. Now, I know there are resolutions, and we want to lump them in, but I think the best way to do that is to pull them all and put them at the end of the meeting, and then we can move our consent agenda, if we do it on a night that we have a regular meeting. So this way, there is a confusion. You could tell the applicants to come later, because the past few meetings when we've had these, you all need to take your time to get the information. The task force is privy with all the information ahead of time, and to ask your questions with the people that are coming to speak. And I just felt the past couple times we did it, again, they were done on Zoom. It took forever to get done. Or just do a separate night and just focus on those applicants.
Yeah, I think Councilwoman Castellino, what we're suggesting is that we're going to tentatively schedule it for August 23rd after the rent leveling appeals hearing.
But then again, you don't know how long you're going to
That's
be,
right.
and now you're going
Right.
to tell these folks that they're going to be, you're interviewing people, don't forget. It's not like you're just making a decision. You have people coming in to interview, and we don't know what kind of timeline you're dealing with for the 23rd.
No, yeah, and so what I was going to say is, Councilwoman Castellino, we don't know if there are going to be any recommendations, so that's why I wanted to, since we're meeting for a second time in August, if there are any, then we'll know in advance, and I'm okay with the tentative. And I'm sure because of the applicants are, some have already, I'm sure that everyone got the email, some have already applied to the state, and the state have notified us just of their application, not that they've been approved, because that has to come from the township at the end of the day. And one is already waiting to send their application to the state. So we have currently 3. I haven't seen any others come in, micro business applications, but currently we have 3, and of those 3, we don't know what's going to, if there is going to be a recommendation. So that's why tentatively, and I'm sure that, I say that to say that I'm sure that they are eager and would be willing to wait until we were finished with our first agenda. But certainly.
Yeah, but also I think it's good for the public to see them on television too. You won't have that option if you do it on the 23rd, because we interview the owners of, if you are approving the resolutions for an applicant, not saying you are, you're not, but that's what I'm saying. I think it's better to not do it on the 23rd because it won't be televised. And I think it should be televised if you are approving somebody.
It is a special meeting, so it's public.
No, it's not. Not if we do a resolution. If you're
No,
approving a resolution.
we're already getting together for a special meeting on that day.
No,
So
Councilman,
it'll
let
be-
me finish. Let me finish,
Go
please.
ahead.
I know it's hard because I'm on the Zoom. So if we have the special meeting on Wednesday and a majority votes to move them to the council, then the council will have a resolution and we will have to vote on it. And that should be a televised meeting.
Okay, so I'm not sure why you think that we're not going to televise the special meeting. We're getting together as a council to make a decision on the rent leveling board. It has to be noticed. It's
Oh, that has, the
Open
rent
to
leveling
the
board
public.
has to be televised? I thought that couldn't be televised, that meeting.
It doesn't have to
Mr.
be
Kaiser?
televised, but it needs to be recorded.
But it has to
But
be
that-
recorded.
But that is a legitimate question.
Yes.
Whether or not you're going to have a video recording of each and every meeting. It is not something you necessarily have done in the past.
No.
I mean, why would we
We
deviate
did-
from our past practice?
We have done that during my council presidency. All of our special meetings were open.
No,
to
they're
the-
not. Not a rent
Not
level. We
well, I'm
haven't
just
had a
saying
rent level.
historically, for instance, the budget hearing was not recorded. I mean, it was recorded, but it wasn't, not videoed. My point is that it becomes a budgetary issue because, we're now coming to the extent that we're I don't want to say past COVID, but after COVID, what is the protocol going to be moving forward for not just this board, but for all the other boards as well, whether we're going to have video recording, because it's a significant expense.
Right, and I'm going to point out that ABC hearings are never, they're
Right.
not
No.
televised,
Right,
they're
they're
only
audio.
recorded.
They are recorded.
There is no requirement for audio or video. It's done as a courtesy.
In that conversation, I do remember having that we were going to treat any cannabis application as an ABC hearing, similarly after our council meeting.
So then does that speak to the fact that we don't have to have a video recording, and we will be in compliance with what we originally stated if we do not do the special meeting on August 23rd as a recorded meeting? We will still be compliant with what we committed to as a task force as well as how we function as a council. Is that not correct?
The
It
task
sounds
force
correct,
is going to
but-
meet, right? The task force is going to
It-
meet, and you're going to make recommendations to the council.
Whether or not, that's still to be determined,
And
yes.
keep on, I'm not advocating one way or the other, I'm just bringing to the point that, every time you have a meeting, if you're gonna be doing, certainly if you're gonna be video recording it and a hybrid, you're talking $400 to $600 a meeting that you're gonna be spending. So on that, and that you may determine that very well may be what, the direction you wanna go, but there's a budgetary impact to that.
I don't think
I'm sorry,
I
I don't
don't-
think it has to be televised.
Yeah, I don't think Councilwoman Castellino was saying that. I think she's saying that the cannabis should be televised, not that we would be out of compliance if it wasn't. But there is a public desire to witness or participate in that, at least visually, and I think that's what her concern is.
Does the public get to comment on the status of the application?
No, they do not, just like they don't on the ABC hearing. So just back to Council President's point, we discussed handling those applications as we do the ABC hearings, and the ABC hearings aren't televised. So I'm good with keeping it on the 23rd. We were all concerned as a council last meeting to make sure that we were able to get their, if there is a support recommendation, to get their recommendation in resolution form as soon as we can.
So
It goes to the length of
I
our-
move for our special meeting to be held on August 23rd for both the Rent Leveling Board as well as the Cannabis Task Force, if they bring forward any
Recommendations.
recommendations. Thank
I
you.
second that.
Does that mean the cannabis portion of that meeting is going to be recorded and posted?
No.
There'll be an audio.
Okay, yeah.
I'm gonna not support that, and
Okay, can
only
we call the
because
vote, please?
yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
But I want to
Finish your
explain.
sentence. Please finish your sentence.
Yeah, thank you. So I won't support that, only because we're just having this whole conversation about time management, and now we're gonna walk into a rent leveling meeting that we don't know we're walking into, which could be 4 hours, and then you possibly may have other folks waiting on us.
Our Rent Leveling Board meetings, when
If
we
this is
have
a
had a
hearing.
hearing, have lasted no more than 2 hours. And that's with a hearing, with live participation from both parties. This is going to be a different format when there'll be no speaking. Mr. Kaiser has already indicated that he will direct us and he will edit down what is important for us to review from the 4 meetings that have been held by the Rent Leveling Board. I cannot imagine that we would deliberate longer than the Rent Leveling Board to confirm or deny the decision that the board has already made.
I think the reason I made the recommendation is because of the length of our meetings, that if we are going to have a cannabis recommendation meeting, or whatever we're calling it, after our September 9th meeting, I believe it is, then we still have no idea what that agenda looks like and how long it would be. So the fact that we were all able to coordinate August 23rd, that was why I made the recommendation to tentatively schedule it there.
Okay, I'll call the vote. So can we
Okay.
have the vote?
Okay, what was the motion, please, exactly?
To have the meeting
Rent
at,
Leveling Board
To
and the
have both
Cannabis
of them
Task
together.
Force on
Okay.
August 23rd.
Okay, so I'm going to call the roll call.
Starting at
Councilwoman
6:30.
Castellino?
No.
Councilwoman Matute Brown?
Yes?
Councilman Rutherford?
No.
Councilwoman Williams?
Yes.
Council President McCartney?
yes.
Okay. Okay, next
Oh.
is,
What was the other pending matter?
do we have any other pending matters or discussion?
Well, the workshop for the capital budget, that would be another date that we have to schedule for that.
Can we
I would
poll that
highly
date?
recommend that be just that topic only, because that could take hours.
Can we have a poll? Can we put out some dates and then poll on that,
Mhm.
as opposed to deliberating here this evening?
Okay,
That
but
may
can
be-
everyone answer when I put out?
Yes.
Yeah, because,
But I think we're into September already.
We are.
So Council President, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Not at all.
But, and I apologize that I'm home this evening. But, again, are directors going to be present? Because I don't feel it appropriate that we make this list without directors being present to answer questions for the capital budget.
Yeah, we will redistribute all the information that we've sent out, the lists, and as well as make available to you the PowerPoints as well. I had a conversation with the mayor in reference to his view on that, and his position is that the administration has put forth its priorities, and it's up to the council now to do whatever trimming of that or additions to that, for that matter. that it may want to do. The administration has always made itself available to answer questions. We would urge you to put your questions and get information, and you can send them to us, and we'll try to get them answered long before your meeting. As far as whether the directors will be at the meeting or not, the discussion I had with the mayor is that he would consider that, but he hadn't made a decision about that.
Thank you.
And I said before, our council meeting was September 9th, but it is in fact September 6th and September 20th. So Madam Clerk, you'll put out some dates and 2 or 3 dates?
Well, I would put out a poll as to who's available when. I can't suggest a date. I need to know what everyone's availability is.
One of us will make a recommendation, and we'll all chime in.
Councilwoman
I
Williams
think-
she just volunteered.
Give us a jumping off point.
She's always the first to answer me, so.
So between the 12th and the 16th, either that week or?
Yes, so
Okay,
let's just
good.
figure it out.
There we go. We will figure that out. Thank you.
Okay. Are we ready to move on to the ABC hearing?
Are there
I
any other
think
pending matters? Is that
Can I ask a question, Council
Yes,
President? I don't know if anyone else has been getting questions or comments or seeing what's been written about what's going on at the pool. Do we have something to, I know, Mr. Keogh's not here. Mr. Gross, if you're prepared, is there something we can do to manage the types of complaints we're getting from the pool?
I'm sorry, to
With
manage
regard to the hygiene? It's a very sensitive issue. I can understand both sides, but I don't really, I've not been there. Have you not heard these complaints, Mr.
I'm having trouble hearing you, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so there have been several complaints about the
Okay.
pool. Yeah. Trying to understand what, if anything, we can do to address that.
We're trying to understand that as well. In terms of that, it is very difficult to control the actions of any individual at any given time. In terms of safety and things of that nature, the pool is very well treated, and from that perspective, I don't see that as being certainly an immediate health issue. But we're looking at what alternatives we have in terms of how to control it. I suspect that that's limited, but again, it's obviously a concern that the administration has, and we're looking at what alternatives there are.
Thank you.
I did want to just say, we received today from the fire department an announcement of fire promotions, and I wanted to say congratulations to Gary Browse and Matt Kehoe being promoted to fire captain, and also there is a police promotion of Rory Kearns from police sergeant to lieutenant. So they say congratulations and Godspeed. And we did not do council liaison, and I did want to say thank you to all residents that have been, on behalf of the West Orange Environmental Commission, we have a 20-foot trailer at the recycling center, and the object of that trailer was to keep plastic toys out of landfills. The trailer is packed, and we have a partnership with Second Chance Toys. So Second Chance Toys, we're scheduled for September 18th in the afternoon to clean, disinfect, and sort those toys. We're always looking for volunteers to help with that. And Second Chance Toys, in turn, gives those to one of the 12 charitable organizations that they're affiliated with. So I want to thank everyone that has been filling that trailer on September 18th. If you want to come, take what you like or leave something behind. So thank you for that. And please visit the West Orange Arts Council, westorangearts.org for the Inspired Landscape exhibit, outstanding exhibit, and a whole calendar of workshops being presented. Next planning board meeting will be on September 7th. Any other updates? Yes, Councilwoman?
Thank you, Council President. The Rent Leveling Board, Economic Development Commission, and Historic Preservation Commission did not have meetings this month, and the West Orange Municipal Alliance held its meeting at the last council meeting, same day. So I really don't have any liaison updates. However, I did want to thank the residents of Englishtown. That is the area behind Essex Green that goes all the way down to Pleasant Valley Way, noted as Englishtown because those streets all have British names. We held a block party of all the blocks in the Englishtown section on last Tuesday, which was National Night Out, sponsored by Councilwoman Williams, myself, and friends. I just wanted to thank the West Orange Police Department, specifically Lieutenant Bryant, Officer Mark, as well as DJ Justin for bringing us their police presence, the West Orange Fire Department, the CERT team, the Public Works Department, the Health Department, and of course all the residents who came out to celebrate that occasion. It was wonderful. Over 150 residents in that neighborhood came out, and it was a fun time had by all. So again, I just want to thank the administration for supporting that initiative and all who came out. Councilman Rutherford, Councilwoman McCartney both attended, and it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
Nicely done.
Can I just add something to that? So absolutely, very well done. But wanted to mention Auxiliary Officer Wick as well for
Yes.
his help maintaining
Guiding traffic.
the pedestrian safety. So
And Patrick Sutherland on the other end also.
I didn't get to see him. Yeah.
There you go.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other announcements? I know it's summer. Joe Fagan, I was going to suggest, Councilwoman Castellino gave me the idea before, thanking you for the Downtown Alliance Downtown Thursday and the historic marker, that might be a nice presentation to bring people up to date on the number of historic markers that we do have in town. That's something you might want to put together.
Thank you, Council President. As Councilwoman Castellino had mentioned, this past Thursday, actually 2 weeks ago this Thursday, the 10th historical marker was placed in front of the parking lot for Snyder's Hardware, and that was the location of the arrival of the first trolley in West Orange in 1892 and subsequently ran for 59 years. It's the second longest running trolley in New Jersey state history. The marker campaign, historical marker campaign, kicked off in 2016 with the first marker of Anna Easter Brown that was paid for by AKA, Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority, which she was a founding member of. And every marker has been either paid for by private funds or raised with private funds. So the markers are at no expense to the town or the Downtown Alliance. It is our hope to have additional markers, raise money for additional markers in the future. I personally have raised a lot of the money. I offered my services to residents for a donation. I would come out to their house and give a private historical presentation. A few took me up on that. I've given presentations at the Edison Lofts in exchange for donations to the marker fund. So it's making, it has made great progress since 2016. I might also add that in the Eagle Rock Reservation, I worked with very closely with the county to add 2 historical markers up there outside of the jurisdiction of the Downtown Alliance.
So Joe, I think we should work on a presentation to show that. Okay.
I will gladly do that. So there are 12 historical markers, but I also am, in addition to working on the West Orange Honor Roll and taking an inventory of historical markers and plaques around West Orange, and I'm somewhere in the neighborhood of over 150 plaques that just go unnoticed. So I think that's all I have to report on that, and thank you for your interest.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Council President?
Yes, Councilwoman Castellino.
Yeah, so just to piggyback on what Joe's been stating, Director Burrell's been, putting a lot of hours in with some volunteers at Downtown Alliance, myself included, we're restructuring the website. And part of that website, we're going to have an attractions tab that will not only feature the museum, but our historic walking tours, which Joe is currently, as he said, working on, and a self-guided walking tour. So that's going to be part of our new visitors promotions that will, we have all in our campaign as we move forward. So, that information will be together, within the month for you.
Council
Thank you.
President, just,
Councilwoman Matuka.
thank you. Madam Clerk just reminded me that we all received notification from Fire Chief Tony Vecchio with respect to his promotions as well. Firefighter Gary Baus, you did mention that? I'm sorry, I thought you mentioned the police. Okay.
Police and fire, Gary
Okay.
Grouse and Matt Kehoe.
I
Thank you.
wasn't listening. Sorry.
Oops. Time-
And that's all I have, because I know we have the ABC hearing.
Thank you. And I wanted to remind everyone about Pleasant Valley Productions. I know Megan had a meeting just a little while ago, upcoming events there, and the West Orange Community Band will be performing there on August 31st. So this was at the Oscar Schindler Performing Arts Center. So I hope everyone can come out.
Move to adjourn.
Move to adjourn and reconvene as the ABC board.
I want to note that
Second.
when the conference did, I predicted 9.
Aye.
All in favor?
Night, West Orange.
Good night.
Good
Thank
night,
you.
West
Please
Orange.
stay safe.
Good night, folks.
Good night.